Hey guys, today I thought I'd review the Jedi Path, which is a Star Wars book. I also have the Book of Sith, which I haven't read yet. So this is like part one, and then I'll do the Sith one once I finally get around to it. Now this one I got when I went to the Star Wars Identities exhibition, which has just been in Sydney. I don't know if it's still on. It's probably just finishing up if it is. And yeah, they had a little shop at the end, and these books just caught my eye. So yeah, I grabbed them. Of course, I grabbed two because I can't really do the good without the evil. That's just me. Yeah, that was fun. The exhibition was good. I went with my friend Carlos, and yeah, we had a good time. Did the identities thing, and I don't know if I showed you guys my identity before, but I'll put it up here again anyway. Kind of funny. You can pause it to read it if you want. But yeah, so this book, I mean, this one's grey, the Sith one is red, so I love the dualities, so I can't help myself, I'm sorry. I mean, Star Wars has that whole good and evil thing. But this one, okay, so like it's a hardcover book. That's pretty cool. And then you can see like the edge of the pages is kind of interesting. It's got this sort of jagged appearance. And I think that's because they're trying to make it out like it's one of these really old, like, you know, 100-year-old books or something. So that's kind of cute anytime they see that, anytime I see that. And the pages are like, they're nice. Nice feeling pages. So yeah, they've kind of tried to give that effect, which I like those kind of artsy things. And like, even though it's Disney and licensed and hardcover and fancy pages, it was only $23 Australian, which, you know, to me is a pretty good deal for this kind of thing. So yeah, quality and price in terms of that. The one thing in terms of quality though, when you open it up, mine's already got a little bit of a hello. Whereas the Sith one, which is built very much the same way, it didn't have that problem. So of course, you know, it's a bad sign that I've already managed to break the one that's supposed to lead me to the light side. I just thought that was funny. Okay, so what? We'll read the back. It's legends. I don't really know a whole lot about Star Wars universe because I've really only watched the main movies and yeah, not really paid a whole lot of attention. Like I've read a few theories, but I'm not one of those extended universe kind of kids, so I don't know what legends means. I guess it's some kind of extended thing. So, Star Wars, The Jedi Path, a manual for students of the Force. Unlock the secrets and share in the knowledge that has educated and enlightened generations of Jedi, from the history and hierarchy of the Jedi Order to the mastery of the Force and the nuances of lightsaber combat. Handed down from Master to Padawan, from Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi to Anakin and Luke Skywalker, this copy has been annotated by each Jedi who held and studied its pages, adding their personal experiences and lessons they've learned. This copy is now passed to you. New characters, new creatures, new ships, which that stuff doesn't excite me. I'm more interested in the Jedi stuff. Okay, so when you open it up, you'll see there's like all the handwriting, you know, they're supposedly annotated by these guys, and it's kind of cute that they've tried to do that and given everyone different handwriting and occasionally different colors. So yeah, thankfully, after they all write something, they do sign their names, so you don't have to remember whose handwriting is who. I mean, like, what, Darth Sidious is pretty obvious, because he's the only one in red, and, like, if I sort of, I don't know, I was getting the impression that it was a kind of a shiny red, but maybe that was just an illusion. And then you've got an introduction by Luke Skywalker, which describes, like, how old this book is supposed to be, and, what, they reckon, like, the original version was written ages ago, like 1,000 BBY, which I think is battle, like before the Battle of Yavin or something. I'm not really good at this stuff. But this particular copy is supposedly written 115 BBY. And yeah, so Yoda, some Thame dude, Dooku, Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan, Anakin, Ashoka. I think she's from the Clone Wars, but I don't really pay attention. Darth Sidious, Luke Skywalker. Alright, cute little opening page. And then we've got all the contents, so, yeah, it kind of tells you all the things we're going to go through. Was there another page? No, that's it for contents, and then these are the kinds of pages you have for the beginnings of each thing, and then this is an example of what it looks like. So if we go back to the contents, in terms of, like, what the book was actually like, my overall impression, like, it was an interesting read, but it sort of, for me, makes me think like, wow, the Jedi are kind of douchebags. It's got a bit of like, it's, for me, it was sort of reflected my martial arts practice when I was younger, and also the experience of being in the Catholic Church when I was younger. It sort of combines those two things in a really odd way. So with martial arts, things like discipline, obviously it's the Jedi, so that kind of stuff, and a lot of rigid things, and also like patterns in terms of lightsaber combat, like how you do different things. It was a little bit vague on those explanations. But then on the religious side of things, like a lot of the strict ideologies and things like that, and I was just like, yeah, Jedi is not the order for me. So anyway, let's look at the content. So they have an introduction to the Jedi Order, Jedi Code, history of the Jedi Order. So yeah, I guess the mythology of the Jedi in the past. I think there was like a particular planet that they started on, and then it's sort of a movement that's grown from there over like tens of thousands of years, or I don't know, I don't even remember how long, because it took me a while to read it. I've been really bad at reading lately. But yeah, no, one of the things about that is, to me, it seems like this universe moves very slowly. If you think about our world, whenever technology comes along, like, it moves so fast. But supposedly, the original version of this book is meant to be 1,000 years old, and this book in particular is meant to be 100 years old. And you look at the technology that they talk about in here, and you're just like, do they ever make progress in this universe, or is it just kind of static? You know, I feel like there's not enough advancements. It seems like the dark side is the only one that are actually trying to make any progress. I mean, maybe this is me not understanding the universe, but I mean, they went from a Death Star to like an oversized death planet kind of thing. At least that's some type of progress, even if it's scientifically like really implausible even in their world. And, you know, like when the planet explodes, the sun just magically appears where it used to be. I'm like, yeah, wouldn't it just appear where the planet was? Anyway, never mind the problems with the movies. I enjoyed the movies, it's just that, yeah, the logic gets me. Anyway, so they have the history of the Jedi, and then they have the prophecy of the Chosen One, and I was like, oh great, let's go look at that, because I really want to. But, this is the prophecy of the Chosen One. Yeah, so, and Luke saying, oh, these were already defaced before I got this book. It was probably the Emperor. And I'm like, I really wanted to read The Chosen One, but whatever. So part 2, Jedi Initiate. So that's when you're a little baby and you're stolen from your family, although they've tried to put a happy spin on it. So you've got joining a clan. Oh, what was the clan thing about? Joining a clan. Oh, okay, so there's like little subcategories within the whole younglings thing, and I was like, yeah, okay. Attire and Comportment, so your uniform. The 3 pillars of the Jedi, so that's the Force, knowledge, and self-discipline, and then Initiate trials. And this is all when you're a little baby, and I think Anakin got to skip all this because he was older when he turned up. So part 3, Padawan, becoming an apprentice. Padawan attire and conduct, so more uniform stuff. The Reassignment Council, so if you suck, you get sent off to do farming for the Jedi, or there's a bunch of different things that you can get sent off to be if you are not Jedi material. And I'm like, oh, that's a little bit depressing. What page is that on? Reassignment Council, page 54. Okay, so the different things you can be reassigned to: the Agricultural Corps, the Medical Corps, and Educational Corps, Exploration Corps. Or am I meant to say Corps? I'm not sure. I don't know. But it's just like, I don't know. I think some of these people maybe have Force stuff, but they're just not good enough to be Jedi, so they get sent off. But they really try and spin that you're still making like a contribution, and you're still technically a Jedi, even if you're not like one of the Jedi warrior type things. I don't know. I was like, oh, this is kind of the depressing part of the whole Jedi thing. So even if you're accepted into the Jedi world, you might be sent off to do boring stuff. So that was one of the more depressing things. Then they get onto lightsabers, their construction and use, sensibilities, so I guess sensing things in the Force. I've sort of forgotten some of this. Field equipment and mission responsibility. And like field equipment, like you'd think in 100 years that things would have moved on, but it was really hard for me to tell if that's actually the case. Advanced cultures and politics in the Republic, studying aboard Praxium ships, the Jedi trials, and the knighting ceremony. And, you know, it just sounds kind of like grading when you're doing martial arts. Alright, and then Part 4, Jedi Knight. And that's, I think the Jedi Knight stuff is where it started to get a little bit more interesting for me, because a lot of the other stuff is like preparation and also organizational kind of stuff, making your way through the ranks in much the same way as you would in an organization or in a martial arts kind of hierarchy type way. It's sort of a combination of those things. But yeah, so the Jedi Knight, roles and duties of a Jedi Knight. And then they've got like 3 main kinds of Jedi. So Jedi Guardian, Jedi Consular, and Jedi Sentinel. I think Guardians are the ones that we usually see in the movies, as far as I can tell. Jedi Consular is more like the diplomatic Jedi who aren't so into fighting, but can fight if they have to. And then there's Jedi Sentinel, who are sort of like, to me, I got the vibe of them being more like ninja, or like they sort of infiltrate different places, and you know, they might not necessarily be known as Jedi when you first look at them, but they're like doing reconnaissance type stuff, or like all the weird little odd jobs that I guess the fancier Jedi aren't so into, and they had some interesting things going on for them. What page was that? 126. Is there anything I can remember? Oh gosh, I forgot. In between all these things, so even if you're like a Jedi Guardian, right, within that there's lots of subcategories. So Jedi Peacekeepers, so they do a lot of security and policing around the galaxy. And there's Temple Security, which sounds fun. Jedi Starfighters, so pilots and shit. Lightsaber Instructors, Exotic Weapon Specialists, which, like, that stuff, I was like, oh yeah. And they go through some of the weapons, so that was kind of fun. And then within Jedi Consular, you've got Jedi Seer, Jedi Healer, Jedi Researcher, Jedi Ambassador, Jedi Diplomat, and Lawkeeper. So those are the sort of more chill jobs within the Jedi. And then Jedi Sentinel. Okay, so you've got slicers, who are computer experts who do fancy computer stuff, and then tech experts. And I was like, okay, I'm not sure what the difference is, but you know, they have all these weird skills. Security expert, they can disarm traps and silence alarms. Jedi Shadows, they seem to be a little bit on the shady side of the Jedi. But yeah, no, I got the impression that the Jedi Sentinel, like supposedly they have yellow lightsabers, which I don't remember seeing much of. And they tend to be like the sort of ninja-y type things. Okay, so I've done a bad job of explaining what the Jedi Sentinels do, so I'll just read a quick bit. But in truth, Sentinels often get the jobs that neither group wants. So talking about the Guardians and the Consulars. So they get all the rejected jobs. Handling assignments that our colleagues have written off as impossible is the sign of a Sentinel. The ranks of Jedi Sentinels include investigators, spies, tech specialists, saboteurs, and other experts whose talents don't easily fit into the Order's tradition. So that's fun, but moving on. Alter abilities, this is where I started going, hang on, I'm not sure that this is really Star Wars universe stuff, because, you know, alter abilities, that sort of moves on to things like telekinesis. Okay, telekinesis we've seen, but then they do go on to other stuff. I mean, affect mind, okay, I'm fine with that. That's like the Jedi mind trick and so on. But then they have one that's alter environment. And if you have a look at this picture, to me, that starts to look like waterbending and so on. And I'm just like, okay, I suppose in theory, if you've got telekinesis, you can manipulate other things. But they really started to talk too much like, what, a Jedi can summon a whirlwind or a lightning strike, or can direct hailstorms and crashing waves against walls of enemy fortification. They can also cause plant surges and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, wait a minute, I think you're starting to go a little bit too far. I mean, we've seen the Force Lightning, but that's a dark side power. And yeah, so this is the part where I was just like, okay, maybe they've overdone this book a little bit, because they're trying to cover every possible thing that a Jedi might be able to do. And they, like, I don't know, I don't feel like they're trying to describe this as a rare thing. It's presented as something legit. Let's do some water bending, air bending kind of stuff. God help us, there's probably fire bending as well. I was just, yeah, not really convinced by that. Oh yeah, look, there is this combustion thing where they can cause objects to explode. And this is under advanced force techniques. And I'm just like, okay, I'm not sure about this. I'm really not sure. And then they have this one that's called like Force Storm, which like causes a whole lot of destruction. And then they recently reclassified it as a dark side power. And then the very next section is Forbidden Force Techniques, which is presumably dark side powers. Force Grip, which is Darth Vader's thing, and like all this stuff. And I'm just like, why wouldn't you include this one in the Forbidden Techniques when it's like right there? Is it because you ran out of space on the pages? I don't know. Occasionally I wonder about their use of pages because sometimes I feel like they've laid out the pages on purpose to be able to handle like the little annotations. So, God, I should have found a good example before actually sitting down to do this. But actually, I'm waiting for the light to get a little bit better so I can do my punk rave stuff. But yeah, no, every now and then you'll see a page where it's like only half a page and they've left space. It feels like they've left space for some writing to happen. So I don't know, this is a vague example just because I couldn't find anything else. If you see this page, right, they could have balanced out these two paragraphs to look a bit neater, but instead they decided to leave room for Darth Sidious to write a thing. And the thing for me is, if this is legitimately meant to be a book that people have later come and annotated, you don't intentionally leave space for annotations. You design it to look nice, and then people have to squeeze their annotations in somewhere. And I know this is me being picky, but if you're trying to go for the realism, you've got to not intentionally put space. Like, here's another one where they've left a whole ton of space down the bottom, which is okay, but, you know, it kind of made me think, like, this could have been, if I was writing the book, maybe you could have spaced it out better. I don't know. There was one that really annoyed me. I should have bookmarked it. There was one that just really obviously looked like they were leaving space for annotations, but sadly I didn't bookmark it, so I can't find it. Oh well, that's just something that I've brought to your attention that might annoy you as well now that I've pointed it out. Okay, moving on. Alter abilities, advanced lightsaber techniques. So yeah, the way they describe the lightsaber things is kind of interesting. It's a little bit hard to understand sometimes, but they have like different forms of it. So it's very martial arts kind of speak. Yeah, no, okay, I can sort of go with that. It's done in a sort of realistic way, but they don't explain a whole lot. So presumably that's because you would need a proper teacher, and it's just to give you an outline. Enlisting new members, the history of the Sith, threats to Jedi teachings, which I think is other dark side groups or like sort of shady force groups, taking on a Padawan learner, becoming a master and grandmaster, and transcending death. Anyway, so I won't go too much more through like what's actually in the book because I don't want Disney to freak out and be like, you're giving it all away. But yeah, so that's a basic sort of gist of the book. Overall, I found it quite entertaining, especially I think because I just don't know a whole lot about the extended Star Wars universe. I do wonder if you're one of those people who's like obsessive about it, whether or not this would really shed any extra light on things that you don't know about Star Wars. Because I don't know what else they've released, but for me it was a good sort of peek at more behind Jedi stuff. Confirmed some of the theories I had, like about it being kind of a rigid order and like, you know, they take on so much power within the galaxy in a way because they're trying to be peacekeeping and all that, and people just trust them, and so I can kind of see why people hate them, and also the fact that they go and like basically take people's babies away. I mean, that's creepy as hell. That is one of the creepiest things that the Jedi do. But yeah, otherwise, like, it's an interesting read, and some of the annotations are cool. My favorite annotations, of course, are Darth Sidious's ones, because he's sort of giving an alternate perspective to all the stuff that the Jedi, like, the Jedi will be like, hey, how great is this thing? And he'll be like, wow, these guys are so narrow-minded, and I'm like, I'm thinking that too. And then there's this section where, I think towards the end when they're talking about the Sith and the dark side and all that, they're like, oh yeah, no, we defeated the Sith, it's no problem, because this is written before, you know, the whole Star Wars thing is supposed to have happened. So Darth Sidious's notes are like, oh my god, like, I've been in plain sight this entire time, and they had no idea. I think he got the book, like, after the prequels, but before the main main original story. And yeah, is like sort of having a laugh at them for having no idea that he was still around. So yeah, pretty fun. But I have to say, like, the light side's cool, but I'm more of a dark side girl, I think. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the Book of Sith has to say that's different. It might be kind of fun to compare. But yeah, no, I just find the organization of the Jedi to be so rigid. But the fact that it's presented well that way in this book, like they actually have all that rigid kind of stuff presented here, I think makes it a little bit more accurate in a sense, a bit more believable. Yeah, cool. Because mainly, I mean, from Luke Skywalker's story on, you don't really get the structured view of the Jedi, and you only get, in the prequels, you get like little glimpses of it, but I feel like this fills in some more of the gaps. So yeah, that was $23 well spent in my opinion. Worth it if you can find a copy and you're into that. Although if you're more of a story kind of person, see, like, I like non-fiction kind of stuff, so when you're combining the fantasy and the sort of non-fiction vibe, that was interesting to me. But if you're someone who's more into the storytelling, there's not really storytelling in this. Like, you can kind of pick up bits and pieces of storytelling, but this is really more background to the Star Wars universe rather than a story within it. So, Star Wars, The Jedi Path, entertaining, worth it. I enjoyed it, even though, like, I sometimes have like a few little nitpicky things. Overall, I thought it was pretty good. And then because it's set out a bit non-fiction-y, like, you know, the sections are really small, so if you only want to read a small amount at a time, you can sort of, you know, just read a little bit and then go away and then come back and then keep reading. So that was good because my concentration span these days is kind of shit. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what's the other one called? The Book of Sith, but the Jedi Path was pretty good to start off with, and I think having the two next to each other would be kind of interesting for my collection because I've got the light and the dark. So that's all for this for now. I don't know how to end my video blogs or anything, so yeah, tune in next time whenever I finally get around to the Book of Sith. Bye-bye! I really need some kind of outro thing, but I'm not good at it. I'm not a real YouTuber in that way, so I'm just gonna awkwardly end the video. If I can